What is the definition of success in your life? I'm not one for definitions really, and success is something that I think most of us tend to look at from a point of view of what others think about us. So if others think that we are successful, we tend to believe that we're successful. For example, if most people think that having a large number of followers on Instagram means success, then I might think, oh, that means I'm successful, right? For me, success means that I'm able to sleep peacefully at night. I get to spend time with my friends and family. The kind of work I do allows me to do these things, where I can just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to Spiti for 15 days. And I can do that. For me, that is success. I never wanted to be in a 9-to-5 rat race. I, didn't want a boss. I wanted to do things my own way to whatever extent it was possible. It's not about money in the sense where I'm like, I want to make crores and I'm like super ambitious and I will do whatever it takes to be like successful. For me, it's like, okay, kaam chal raha hai. I get to do all these things. I think I'm super privileged. I get to work with amazing brands who send me free stuff. I get to, travel. I've made so many friends thanks to the internet. I think whatever helps make my life wholesome, for me, that is success. At least for me personally. I'm no one to judge what anyone else is doing. So, and people have different definitions on their own. But this is mine. I like, sleep peacefully at night and mostly be happy. I mean, we all have, good times, bad times, sad, happy, whatever. But overall, do you think IGTV will or should disappear after some time? Is it still that engaging? It depends on what you're doing. For example, what I do with my IGTV is, like I just said, I do these Instagram lives. I do one once a month where we discuss questions like this and we talk about stuff. And then I take the entire 60 or 90-minute recording and I chop it up into each segment is one question, right? So it usually 60 seconds is what goes onto Instagram. It has to be 60 seconds and more. Then I post that and I usually get 20 to 30 questions at least, which means I'm able to post for about a month, 30 days. I usually don't post on Saturdays and Sundays. And then at the end of that period, what I do is I put those clips back together and I make a 30-minute video, which then goes long form on my YouTube. But on IGTV, I don't know. So I could put the entire video on IGTV also. But the idea is I don't think a lot of people have that kind of time. So then the final video goes on my YouTube and the audio from that, the 20-30 minute audio goes onto my podcast. Engaging, I think there are enough people who genuinely listen to the videos that I post. And by enough, I mean, I'm okay with that number. Because, if 50 people will listen to it, I know that there are 5 from that who will send me a DM and say, hey, I found that very useful. And then there will be one person who will actually book a consulting session with me. So that works for me. I'm not interested in, engagement kya hai? Why aren't all 55,000 people who follow the handle looking at all my videos? That is not going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen because I think anyways what I talk about is a very niche thing. I'm talking specifically about social media and brand building in India. And specifically for small businesses and solo entrepreneurs. I think that is still quite niche, unfortunately. I would like it to blow up and everybody should be doing it. But, I've got to be real. So I don't think IGTV is going anywhere and I wouldn't want it to go because it's a nice long form video format on Instagram and it is a platform where everybody is and YouTube is for larger videos. So I think IGTV is fine. If it went away, would I miss it? I would still post to my stories, I suppose, because I also chop up that 2-minute video into 8 pieces, 15 seconds each and put it on my stories. So maybe I won't miss it. And then I can just make story highlights or something. So yeah, it's just another option on the existing platform. I don't think it'll break my heart if it went away. Seen such a decrease in the reach and likes, etc. What can I do about that? What are the other platforms one should be on to brand build? Obviously, my goal is to reach people who will buy my stuff. Yes, the reach has totally gone to shit, but it has been going to shit for a few years now. This is not new. It is going to get worse, in my opinion, because that is what has been happening in the last 3 years. It is, I do notice that when I travel and I post from not this location, which is in Gurgaon, I tend to get more people following the account and engaging more. But as soon as I come back, like when I was in Spiti for 15 days, my account gained a lot of new audience. But since I've come back, today, for example, I've actually lost audience. So the gains are much lesser. And it's very random. Like I can't see why that is happening. So till the time you don't have control over that, and Instagram is never going to share that information with you, you are not going to be able to do anything about it. At the same time, the fact still remains that Instagram is the platform to be on. So this is a no-brainer. Ye to chahiye hi. Apart from this, I mean, a blog any day. I mean, I know there are people who still read blog posts as long as, they're relevant, they're not very salesy. You can talk about your story, you can talk about how you built your brand, you can talk about behind the scenes and things like that. As far as increasing reach is concerned, you can try promoting your products by buying ads on Instagram, depending on your product category. In my experience, and I've said this before also, high ticket items don't tend to do too well. You will get a lot of people maybe coming and looking at your Instagram, but A, they might not follow you, B, they will definitely not buy your product. But it's a game of consistency and being able to survive in the long run. So as many platforms as you can be on. Like now, I post on my blog, and from there I post on Instagram, I post on Twitter, I post on LinkedIn, I post on my personal Facebook page, I post on my Facebook business page, and once in a while I take a whole dump of images and also post on Pinterest with links back to my blog. I do this manually and I do this on a daily basis. It takes time to add up. So it's a constant thing. You have to continually keep doing it, unfortunately. There is no quick ticket to it. Even if you put an ad on the TV, it's not like suddenly you will become a crorepati. It's not gonna happen. So you have to decide pros and cons in terms of how much budget you have to spend and what are the areas you want to spend the money on. Good photographs, maybe good images, videos, short form videos, don't make spelling mistakes in your captions, basic stuff. And then reaching out to people individually, not traditional influencers, what we look at people as influencers, but people who buy products like yours, people who are interested in a market like that, and their followers might be then interested in that kind of products. So it's like 2-3 step reach out to people types. How to have stable earnings each month? I mean, get a job, I guess. A 9-to-5 job will give you stable earnings. Solo entrepreneur life is not for stable earnings at all. Like, there are times where I'll have 3 months which are so good. Like I make money for my entire year. I earn for the entire 12 months within 3 months. And then for the next, 9 months, there's nothing. So it really depends. Solo entrepreneur, freelancer life, if you want stability, I don't think it's a good idea at all. And I'm not just talking about earnings. I'm talking about everything. You don't know where your next client is coming from. You don't know who's going to buy your product next. You don't know anything basically. So if you are somebody who's not good with uncertainty, then being a solo entrepreneur is not a good idea, like at all. It's crazy. I mean, it's a crazy life. It's a crazy, stressful life that will give you anxiety. But at the same time, it's also extremely exciting and satisfying at the end of the day where, at least for me, when I'm like, damn it, I did that, Again, I'm not trying to say that I'm a self-made person, because without the help of others, without other people actually buying my stuff, my art, my consulting, my photographs, I wouldn't have been able to get to, this point. But it is still, you have to make those decisions for yourself. You are responsible for yourself. You are the only one who's responsible for running your business. So it can be exciting also, especially if you like a rush on a daily basis, which is not happening during COVID, of course, which is unfortunate. I really miss that. Daily is a lot of fun when you're getting paid. And then when the payments are not coming in, then you're like, how do I use my creativity to do something which will, get more money in? And then you hustle and then you figure out and, you try lots of options. There's a lot of constant back and forth. You're tweaking, you come up with an idea, it doesn't work, you drop it, next one, drop it, next one, oh, works, okay, only works 50%, okay, try one more, 50 plus 50. So that's why I always say that it's about, as a solo entrepreneur, it's about multiple streams of revenue. You need to have investments, and that is one stream of revenue. For me, for example, I also do a bunch of things. I do photography. So when I'm shooting for a client, that is one source of revenue. Then when I'm selling prints of my photographs, that's another source of revenue. Then the art that I make, paintings wise, larger paintings, that is one source of revenue. Then there are prints of that art, right? Art, fine art prints you do for art. That is another source of revenue. Then I have my brooches. So brooches would come in the category of like maybe jewelry, for example. So that is another source of revenue. Then I have my consulting practice where individuals and brands hire me for a consulting call, very specifically for a consulting call. That is another source of revenue. Then sometimes not during COVID, but I mean during COVID it's been on Zoom and stuff, but otherwise, speaking sessions. So when I was hired as a speaker, I would go on stage, I would talk to people, etc. There was another source of revenue. So you need to have, that's what, 6-7 sources of revenue, streams of revenue, if you want to live on low anxiety when you're a solo entrepreneur. What do you tell brands when they point out low numbers of engagement, reach vis-a-vis the cost you charge for a blog post or Insta post? If a brand says that to me, then I just don't work with them because they don't get it. They don't get it. And it is not my responsibility to educate them. If they want to be educated, they can hire me. I am not going to give them advice for free to tell them how they are fucking things out. Basically, that is the gist of it. I don't think anyone has ever said that to me except once. I think that happened maybe 5-6 months ago where, and this is someone I've worked with previously. They had hired me a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago for something on Instagram. I did that. They were happy with the whole thing. At least that's what they told me. And then again this year, they were like, oh, we want to do this again. And we got on a call. We were on a Zoom call and the call lasted 30 minutes, which is when they went onto my Instagram page, they looked at it and they said, oh, your engagement is so low. I was like, why would you make a call without first looking at what the page is, right? You wanted to work with me because you thought I did decent work. At least that's what you told me, unless you were lying to me. So the communication was not clear in the first place then. But I don't know, maybe the boss changed. And the boss's mandate is like, we only work with people who have engagement above 2%. I don't know, whatever that means. In truth, there is no way to measure engagement because you can falsify everything. So then that means you falsified engagement. And I keep repeating this so many times, people are going to slap me. You can buy number of followers. You can buy number of likes. You can buy number of video views. You can buy the number of comments and the type of comments that you want. You can buy the number of people who visit your blog post. So page views can be bought, right? What is engagement? Engagement is the number of followers on your Instagram handle in ratio to the number of people who actually come and like your stuff and come and comment on your stuff. That is engagement. When I can falsify everything, then point kya engagement measure karne ka? That is my contention. Now, a lot of people don't agree with that. They're like, no, how can everything be fake? I'm not saying everything is necessarily fake, but I'm saying it is possible. So then how do you know whose engagement is better and whose isn't? And then, of course, there are influencers who are on what are called Instagram pods. It's a group of 20 people and they all decide to scratch their back mutually, where it's like, I will go and comment on each person's post. So every day I have to leave at least 19 comments and each person has to do that for everyone else on the group. That is also cheating. So how do you measure this stuff? So if there is a brand that I have worked with over a period of time and now they are saying that, oh, but what happened to your engagement? And they're my friend, then I will have this conversation with them. But for free, I'm not going to give this advice to anyone. How does one know how much to charge brands when they reach out for collaboration? Is it based only on the number of followers? Not at all, to the second part. It is not based on the number of followers at all. I routinely charge at least 3 to 4 times more than people who have 10 times more followers than I do. And I get paid, not just charge, I get paid that routinely. Obviously, I'm not doing as much work as the other people who charge a lot less, but who have so many more followers on their handle. But that's fine with me. I don't want to be dying every day and doing like a shoot for a brand and all. I want like, 4 assignments in a month. I'm sorted with that, right? It's the same thing, right? You buy, you spend $1,000 and you get 1x. No, what point was I making? I was like, okay. So, for example, for one Insta post, somebody who charges 50,000 and they do 4 assignments in a month. And then there is somebody who charges 25,000 who does 6 assignments in a month. still the 50,000 wala is making more, right? Calculation. They're making more. So volume of work might be less, but the amount of money is fine by me. And I charge on the basis of, it's called cost of doing business, CODB. Now you can even find calculators online where you can actually input all the values and figure out what your cost of doing business is. It is based on where you live, so how much it, your lifestyle costs, like rent, electricity, things like that, and then how much salary you want to make every month. And then you get a per hour cost, and then you estimate how many hours you will take to do that assignment, and that is how you come to a cost. It's not just something you pull out of thin air. So mine is based on the number of hours I will spend doing an assignment, which includes, traveling to the location, answering emails, answering phone calls, creating a brief and dissecting a brief and sitting with the client and doing a meeting, as well as actual shoot time. How much time will it take to edit the images? If I'm doing a blog post, how much time does it take for me to compose an entire blog post? How much time does it take for me to put out social media posts throughout the month if I'm doing a longer campaign with them? And that is based on a per hour cost. And then you see that if you have a lot of work coming in, then you can increase your pricing by 10% so that, the volume goes down and things like that. So that's what it's based on. It's not arbitrary. Cost of doing business, CODB. Check it out online. I have written about it and I have talked about it many, many times over the years. But that's essentially what my pricing is based on. It has nothing to do with the number of followers I have. The pricing is based on the amount of work and the amount of effort I'm going to be putting in. Whether I have 5 followers or if I have 500. Imagine if I had started an Instagram account now, right? But I have been doing work for 17 years. People know me in the market. I've got people who like my work. I've got fans or whatever. And now I made an Instagram account, and now it takes so long to actually get people to see your work. So what if I'm able to just have like 500 followers right now? My rates are not going to go down just because I have 500 followers, right? If Amir Khan decides today that he's going to create an Instagram account, so what? He'll have 0 followers on day one. Yeah, so that's got nothing to do with anything. You know what I mean? How can brands best understand if the product suits the influencer and vice versa? Well, it's suits in the sense that if the aesthetic fits with the brand, if it is a product that the influencer has talked about in the past, and if it is somebody that you think can grow along with the brand growing, then, that's what it is. It's, for example, like, I don't really, there was a phase in the middle when I wasn't eating any sugar, right? And then a chocolate brand got in touch with me. So I had to evaluate that consciously and think about that, hey, can I actually put this out there? Because, people know right now that I'm not eating sugar. So chocolate has sugar. So what am I going to do? So then I was like, honestly, in real life, if I want to take a break and I want to enjoy a cupcake, I already do that. Once in a month, I would go to Cinnabon in Delhi and I would eat like this chocolate cupcake. So I could use this as a break. So that is what we went with. Now, why did the brand approach me? Mainly they would like the photographs and they wanted me to do like a mini shoot, for example. And then, a small video talking about, because they had very specific packaging. They printed my name on the chocolate's wrapper and things like that. So I was like, oh my God, this is so cute, because it was. One of your favorite chocolate brands and they put your name on the wrapper. It is kind of cool. So you have to have a conversation first for both parties, for a brand to know whether the influencer is a fit or not. Now, for example, a very traditional brand might not be happy with an influencer who poses in bikinis all the time on their feed, for example. I think it's dumb to not see a fit there. You can still figure out a fit there. But, some brands are like that. They're like, no, this is not somebody we want to associate with. Some brands might be like, oh, this person uses too many expletives. बहुत ज़्यादा गाली देते हैं. We don't want to work with them. Okay, fine. So that is one aspect of it, which again, I think is total bullshit. But it really depends on, who the boss is and what they want to do and things like that. So that is, I suppose, again, you have to have a conversation, build a relationship, actually go and look at the influencer's work, not just the number of followers. See who they are, what work have they done in real life, what are the other brands that they have worked with, things like that. Brand suitability measure, meaning you're asking me how I decide whether this brand is suitable for me or not. Is that what you're asking? Because if that's what you're asking, then my criteria is simple. If I can photograph it, then it's my client brand. And I can photograph anything. So any brand can be my client. I have not done work for brands where I remember there was a genital whitening cream that had come out many years ago, and they got in touch and they specifically wanted me to talk about how good the product was. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And on the other hand, if they had wanted me to, for example, do a feature about the founder of the brand, right? Who is the founder of the brand? Why did they come up with this product? So I could have done an interview, I could have done a portrait shoot, I could have done photograph them at their home, at their office, what does a day look like with them without directly talking about the genital whitening product. They couldn't understand that. So, but like I said, for me, it's about photography. If I can photograph it, it's a client. How do you remain authentic and strike a balance between sponsored and non-sponsored? It's very hard to strike a balance between sponsored and non-sponsored because 90% of the stuff on my feed at least is not sponsored. So there's no balance there. It's heavily skewed towards not sponsored because that is life. It's just authenticity is what? Authenticity is you don't lie and you represent your life the way it actually is. At the same time, you don't want to, if I'm having a bad day, I don't want to be online and be like, oh fuck, I'm having such a bad day. Because even when I go and hang out with my friends, I won't really bitch about how bad a day it was. When I'm there with them, then I want to have fun, I want to enjoy their company, I want to have a conversation with them. So it's kind of the same thing that we then do online. Authenticity is not, saying everything. Authenticity is not showing what underwear you're wearing. Authenticity is, I'm here, talk to me, this is who I am in real life, and it's the same person who is online. Like, there's no difference. When you meet me in real life, I'm exactly like this. I think that is authenticity, where I don't have to fake anything. It's that, for me, that has always been authenticity. Or kuch nahi karna hota hai. You share what the work that you do. You don't really have to share your personal life. I think a lot of people believe that being authentic means you have to say everything about what's going on in life. No, you don't. It's none of anybody's business from that point of view. So don't overshare also. But I think people can tell, also that if you're being authentic or if you're just, fibbing or whatever. So it's, just be who you are in the sense that don't fake it. Like, ठीक है, किसी को English बोलनी नहीं आती ठीक से, कोई बात नहीं, टूटी फूटी बोल लो. Real life में भी जब मिलेंगे, that's how you're going to talk. It's, I've never really understood this whole thing, authenticity. Authenticity meaning what? I am who I am. And that is what I present myself as. When working with brands, they might sometimes have like, okay, please don't use the word fuck in the video if you're recording a video. Which is fair enough. Like, I get it. If I'm doing, professional talk where I'm hired as a speaker, I always clear it with them that is it okay to use expletives? Because I use them in normal life also. But I get it that some brands don't want to be associated with that. If I'm fine with the product and the people and everything, then not a problem. Yeah, it's a brand guideline. That's not an issue. I don't think that is being inauthentic. That is just being a professional. So, sponsored work, again, you have to see, like, you do some things to pay the rent and then you do some things to feed your soul. So I do my art to feed my soul and I do photography and Instagram, etc. to pay my rent. And, I do enjoy everything. But, sometimes you take on assignments where like, okay, the money is good, the assignment is repetitive, I've done it 500 times, but I'll do it again because it pays the rent. So stuff like that. But I don't think that's being inauthentic at the end of the day. But you have to understand, I'm not just somebody who does Instagram posts. I have like a shitload of other stuff that I do. So for me, the game plan is totally different. I'm not looking at Insta post karni hai, iske paise milenge. I'm not looking at it like that. I'm always looking at the long game. I'm always looking to tell a photo story. I'm always looking to share my story and behind the scenes of, how I paint, the art that I do, travel, etc., etc. For a beginner, should they take barter collaboration or should they start charging right away? You should absolutely be charging right away. What has got to do with being a beginner? No, you must absolutely start charging right away. I mean, imagine all those people who do MBA, right? And then they get out of B school and they get a job, right? Do they just go to a company and say, hey, I'll work for you for free for a year because I'm a beginner? No, they get a salary. They get a stipend even before they finish B school when they go and do an internship. So why would you be working barter? No, charge. You're doing work. Barter se kya hoga? Somebody is going to give you a product that is listed MRP at whatever, 50,000 bucks, imagine, right? What are you going to do with that product? You can't pay rent with that product. You can't invest in your business further with that product. And it looks disgusting if you take a product and then you sell it on the side, right? So no, I think it is a terrible idea to do barter at any stage in your career, whether you're a beginner or you've been around or whatever. If a brand wants to give you something just like that, and you can say, yeah, sure, thanks, and take it, and that's it. If you think it's a really nice product, you can post a story and say, hey, thanks. Or maybe you'll use the product in the future and you post a selfie and then you tag them. That's great. But you cannot have a contract for barter. Please stop it. This is no way to work in a capitalist society. If it was not a capitalist society, then yeah, we could have thought of all these other options. Lekin hai abhi capitalism. What are we going to do? So money, money, money. Thank you. Is more important, being yourself on Instagram or having a look/theme for the feed which covers only one aspect of yourself? So as far as I am concerned, as you can clearly tell from my feed, it's a lot of things. It's not just one aspect. I think it really depends also on what you're trying to do. My goal always with social media and Instagram was to represent myself. I am multi-talented. There are a bunch of things that I do. So all those things are part of me, and there are several aspects. So for example, on my IGTV, I post, 1, 2, 3 minute questions from my consulting videos. On my reels, I mostly post progression of my art, and I make snippets out of those. On my feed, you will mostly see photography because I'm a photographer. I sell prints. I also do client assignments. So I'll talk about fashion, whatever I've shot, events, etc. You'll also see art on my feed when I actually have a finished collection of paintings or when I've developed a new collection of brooches. So that is definitely more than one aspect. At the end of the day, my brand in that sense is me. So it depends on what it is that you're trying to do. I think it is fair enough to use one handle for all the aspects of who you are. I think that is more authentic. It also allows people to identify with you, especially if you have a brand that needs people. You need people interaction. You need, for example, in my case, people to hire me as a consultant. I need people to come to my workshop. So then I do these IGTV videos which help people identify with me. They know who I am, right? The way I talk, the things I say. Some of them might be turned off that, oh, Naina uses fuck a lot. So fine. So that's not my people then. I want to do work with my people. So I think for me, I need to present all of me. I know there are some brands who technically look at, just their feed looks very consistent. It's all like muted, great, monochrome, whatever. That's not me. I am colorful. I'm full of life. I'm loud. My images are highly saturated, lots of contrast, and it's not for everybody, and that's fine. I'm not trying to appeal to everybody. I'm trying to be me, and I know me appeals to my people. So, that is also a way to be authentic in that sense. Like I said, it's who you are on a daily basis. It's the things that appeal to you. Like I recently posted a photo of a cat. Normally, I never do that, and it was a phone photo. But I met the cat for the first time and it was beautiful and I posted it on my feed. And, the image didn't get a lot of likes and that's fine. But that is who I am. I love cats. And I don't have any of my own. So, kisi aur ki thi. And I was like, oh, kitty, kitty, kitty. And the thing with IG is that you can experiment with it and see. And if it doesn't work, then you can just archive all those posts. You have to experiment. How will you know what works otherwise? So I know a lot of people get very scared, what if I put this, what if it doesn't work? Well, then you just archive it. And then you can experiment over a week, over 3 weeks, over 3 months. ठीक है, कुछ नहीं होता, archive कर देना. But without experimentation, you're not going to find out how more you can use Instagram, how you can actually utilize all aspects of the platform. I didn't suddenly start doing IGTV when IGTV launched. Only now have I started using it. Only now have I actually kind of figured out, okay, Instagram lives I can do only once a month and this is the subject that works best for me. So I hope that answers the question.